Hello guys and welcome back to All for United. Myself and Benny are back. The highs and lows of the under-23s, the disarray for the men's, and some positives for the women's team. We'll have it all covered here on All for United. So stay tuned after the intro. Myself and Benny got a good show lined up. Hopefully a guest over from America today to talk about the Manchester United manager Marc Skinner as well. So we'll see you on the other side.
Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from Passionate Reds, only on All for United.
And just like that, Benny, how are we doing, mate?
Not too bad, mate. Bit of a mixed weekend for United, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's been a bit, the last 7 days or so, which we shall cover in just a moment, have been a bit all over the place as a United fan, hasn't it? So I guess when you're talking about all over the place, the best place to start is the under-23s, isn't it? Obviously, you were there last Thursday up at the Stadium of Light. First of two trips to the northeast, which we shall cover in a moment. How was that game? Obviously, we're now out of the Papa John's Trophy, as it's known. I'll just let you talk to me. You were there. How was that game?
You mean the 21s, pal? The 21s, yeah. Because they have dropped for some reason. They like to drop out a couple of age groups, but yet Paul McShane can play. Which if people know, Paul McShane is in his 30s, at least in his mid-30s, late 30s now. But yeah, it was all right, mate. It was actually a decent game, but Sunderland had been. I don't know whether it's true Sunderland are going to get fined for this, but they didn't play any of their first team. This was their under 23s as well. And on the night, I just think we were just maybe a little bit sluggish, to be fair. Especially second half. First half, both teams played very good football, I thought. It was end-to-end, it was entertaining. They hit the woodwork once, we hit the woodwork twice. Charlie McNeil, throughout the game, he had 2 one-on-ones, both straight down the goalkeeper's throat. On another day, those would have been in the back of the net, especially from a striker as prolific as Charlie McNeil. But again, I still say I'm still of the opinion with Charlie McNeil, he will come good at that age group, the 21s, 23s, but he's still work his way up through the gears and getting used to that sort of football. So remember, he's again playing above his age level. So he will come there. I thought Hugh Gill did all right. Nothing too flash from him, to be honest with you, but he had a couple of opportunities. If my memory serves me correctly, he had one off the post. Before someone had theirs off the post. It was just one of those, mate. We sort of, maybe capitulated a little bit, especially for their second goal. I thought, could we defend it a little bit better? But, it's just one of those, mate. It's disappointing that our Papa John's Trophy journey has ended, but we needed to win by 2 straight clear goals anyway in order to try and progress in the competition. So it was always an uphill task when you're 2-1 down to come back to 2-2 and then get a third. But they did try, and obviously we have to mention Zidane Iqbal. He scored an absolute wonder goal, an absolute strike. I can't talk the kid more highly than I have done. I think he's absolutely brilliant. I think he will be, over the next 4 or 5 years, one to watch, hopefully, break through in the Manchester United first team, getting his opportunities, because he is some player. And that man, Fernandes, was always a danger going forward. But I don't particularly think he had his best game at Sunderland. I think they tried to shackle him as best as they could, trying to sort of keep him quiet. There's always an extra man on him, knowing that he was a danger. But he still played some beautiful balls from the back, over the top, switching the play really, really nicely. But I just think that overall, when you have a few missing, Hannibal Mujebri again, I think the kid's still injured and what have you. It's or he's still on a ban. I don't know how long they banned him for with that red card against Lincoln. So it's either one of the two. I think it's injuries because he's not been playing for the 23s either. So we really miss someone like Hannibal in midfield, like Guile, the guy that can sort of pick the team up by the scruff of the neck a little bit more. But listen, they gave it their best shot, mate. And at the end of the day, you know, they've done well. They've done well this season. It's not as disappointing as I would have been, but
it's one of the issues, isn't it, that Tony raised last week on the Academy show that we did, that this is the problem with the Papa Johns. You can play 2 or 3 games and you're out, and you don't get this. The Academy don't get the chance to develop against fully strength teams like, say, Sunderland, who potentially should have put some of their first teamers out, and Bradford, Lincoln, the teams that we played. And there isn't that progression on to play, let's say, like League 1 and 2 sides. And I've raised John's question here about are we missing anyone who's gone out on loan? I actually think, and I've said this before about where we are in the Premier League 2, as it's known, the under-23s league, that we aren't as strong as maybe other teams are because they keep hold of their academy players, whereas the likes of Garner, Levitt, Galbraith, even Damani Mellor and players like that have all gone out on loan. So I think there is that question, and I think it's right to ask that question, that we probably do miss some of those players. A player who we're obviously not missing, and that Tony did say last week is probably the closest to the first team, is Alanga. Now, the under-23s, obviously I know it's the 21s in the Papa Johns, but the 23s played against Blackburn on Saturday, won 3-0. Alvaro Fernandez, who I just rave about all the time, involved in all 3 goals. And Alanga and Shoretire with the other 2. So Alanga, obviously, from what we've heard, is closest to the first team. Benny, do you think he's going to get a chance this year? Like, because I personally think he's probably too good for the 23s.
I think he will do. I think he will get a chance at some point. You know what we're like with picking up injuries, and especially towards the latter half of the season where players tire. I think he'll still get a good chance at Langley. So I've got 4 in 4 for the 23s. So 4 goals in his last 4 appearances. He's very, very... When I watched him in pre-season, he's very, very comfortable out wide as well. I think he's a lot more comfortable out wide on the left than, say, Tony Marshall. I think he seems a lot more comfortable out there. He seems a lot more at ease there as well. Whereas I think Marshall tends to maybe float in and out of the games a little bit out on the left. I do think Alanga can perform out there on the left. I know he prefers to go through the middle as a out number 9, but when you've got the likes of your Ronaldo, your likes of your Cavani's and Greenwoods and Rashfords that can also go through there, and Marshall himself. So there's going to be a competition there, but I still think that he can come in and maybe do a job down the left-hand side if needs be, or he can come in as that number 9. I do think he'll get minutes, especially in the FA Cup, depending on who we draw in the early rounds, in the 3rd and 4th rounds. Depending on how we go there, depending on how we do in the Champions League, if qualification all wrapped up before the last game, he might get the nod to play in the last fixture before the group stages end. All depends on how that goes, obviously, and how we're performing and how the teams around us are performing in the Champions League group. So I think there'll be plenty of opportunities for him, especially, as I said, towards the last half of the season where players, as we've seen over the previous couple of seasons, in the first team where players start tiring, legs start going. He could be a really good option, even from the bench, to bring on somebody that's got quick movement, is intelligent, he knows where the goal is, but he's also got end product as well. He's also got the eye for setting people up, which is something we seem to be missing at the minute in the first team. Sancho's not clicking at the minute. I still think we need to play him out on the right, but then where do you play Mason Greenwood? You can't take Mason Greenwood out of the team. He's probably been our outfield. He's probably been our best player so far this season. Questions upon questions, I suppose, where he could fit in, but he can go straight down the middle as a number 9. He can go out wide on the left. He's even comfortable out wide on the right as well, which we have seen when he switched over at times for the in pre-season when he was integrated into the first team, coming through for the lads that were away for the Euros and everything. When he was integrated sort of pre-season time, and he was comfortable switching around with his fellow right winger, say for example it was Greenwood Greenwood go on the left, and Elanga goes out wide right, or Greenwood goes up centre forward drops out right left, and Elanga out wide right. He's very comfortable at switching positions across that front three. So he's one to look out for, and he'll be definitely the one that'll get a chance. And I still think Fernandes might break into this first team before the end of the season as well. It's a bit more of a tougher ask for Fernandes, because obviously he's got Alex Telles in front of him and Luke Shaw in front of him in his more preferred position. But again, he can play out on the right-hand side and look equally as comfortable. So if we're having issues at the right back, and Wan-Bissaka's form is still up and down like it is at the minute, he could then come in. I know we've got Ethan Laird out on loan, but I can't see them recalling Ethan Laird. They'll keep him out on loan for the rest of the season, and making sure he's getting first team football week in, week out, in the Championship, for Swansea at a decent level, and he's performing really, really well.
Yeah, I think Fernandes has probably got more of a chance of breaking in than Elanga, just because there's only two players in front of him. I mean, you could argue Brandon Williams maybe, but with Elanga, you've got about 7 or 8 players in the positions that he plays, Elanga, so it's going to be difficult for him to break in, I think. But I think, like Tony said last week on the Academy show, that the Academy football's all the same. Everyone plays a similar kind of football, and it's very difficult. So maybe Elanga, like other players, is going to need that loan move. And just while we're on that, we will have a show next week on the loan players like Laird and Chong, who are absolutely tearing up the Championship. We're just going to briefly touch on the Leicester defeat. Obviously, it's been covered over the weekend. We're going to briefly talk about that. But then we do have our special guest coming on to discuss Marc Skinner in about 5-10 minutes' time. So make sure you get your questions in for that. So, Benny, I don't want to talk about this too much, just purely because it's depressing. Obviously, Manchester United lost to Leicester at the weekend. You were there. What was kind of your overall thoughts, as brief as you can, kind of on that defeat and just where it leaves us? Because me personally, I actually think we'll turn this around, and I think we probably will go and beat Atalanta and Liverpool. But it's not looking like that way, is it, at the minute?
It was just poor all around, really. It was a poor day at the office, if you use that expression, which is used quite a lot here in the UK. It was a poor day at the office for everybody. Apart from Mason Greenwood, no one really stood out. Marcus Rashford as well, when he came on, looked bright, got his goal. But the rest of them, David De Gea did very well. But the rest of them, just, I don't know, they look below par. They look, I don't want to say the word tired, but they look leggy for some reason. I don't know if it's something doing in training. How we overload them in training. There's no real bite to this United side. There's no pace. There's no urgency. I remember Solskjaer when he first became in charge of Manchester United, and I think it might even be when he was caretaker manager as well. He put this point across that no team should be outrunning Manchester United. No team on a football pitch should be outrunning Manchester United. And I'm looking at it now, especially this season. Every team's outrunning us near enough. The first the ball, the stronger in the tackle. We look a little bit lethargic in the tackle. Paul Pogba yesterday, lethargic in tackle, just throwing his arms about everywhere, not wanting to run back. Yes, Bruno had a poor game, by the way, but at least Bruno, at least he gives that desire to run back, and try and put a tackle in. But even he looks a little bit leggy. I don't understand why early on in the season do our players look leggy. Is it the fact that they play so much football with very little rest? I know they've had a little bit of a summer break, but when you think about it, this is Project Restart, how much football has been played on top of the Euros as well, and other competitions throughout the world, which they've gone off and played in, because it's not a Manchester United side that I associate with Solskjaer. I at least associate a little bit. The people blame Ronaldo for the lack of the press a little bit. Maybe so. We know Ronaldo's not going to press as much as, say, a Cavani or a Greenwood or a Rashford, But I look at it all over the field. I'm like, no one's really pressing. People say, yeah, you might say, oh, pressing should come from the top, from the start, from the top of the side. But when you look at it, the midfield's not pressing either. Everyone's just walking through the midfield like they're not there. They look leggy. I mean, Matic had an all right game as well, to be fair to him. I don't want to single out Matic too much because I thought he did all right. But again, we know we get that sort of hour to 60, 70 minutes out of him before his legs start going a little bit and he starts looking leggy. That's just down to his age, unfortunately. Now, he's lost that sort of half yard that he used to have, especially when he played at Chelsea. But I just don't know, mate. It just seems something wrong in our desire and in our in the way that we're pressing as well. It just seems we're not outrunning teams. We're not going at teams like a Manchester United team should do. Like, people always ask me, what's the Manchester United way of playing? I don't like answering that question because there's various different ways that Manchester United have played over the years, even under Alex Ferguson. But what I will say is that energy, that desire, that tempo in matches, we never got outrun. We always ran at the opposition. We always fighting them. Good. I know wing play is gone now a little bit, but good old-fashioned wing play. Get it down there. Go beat your full-back. Go around the full-back. Twist him inside out. Scare the living daylights out of them. The only one player that does this in this team is Mason Greenwood. And I don't know why Sancho doesn't do this. Is he struggling out on the left? Does he prefer out on the right? Is he struggling to adapt to English football at the minute? Because it's a whole total different kettle of fish to the German league. I don't know, mate. It's just questions upon questions again. But I hope we turn it around because I love the guy, man. And I hate his name being dragged through mud by idiots, man, on social media, Solskjaer. So I hope he can turn it around. It's a big couple of games now for him this week. I know it's a big next 6 games are big for him, but I'm just looking at this week alone. Let's take one game at a time. Listen, I like the game. We've got to go out there and beat Atalanta. Got to go and beat them.
I think that's the thing is that we've got more questions than answers, and I think just on quickly before we move on to the main bulk of the show where we are going to be talking about Marc Skinner, I'm just going to quickly answer this question here about I think it does. I think the reason why we see players come back after internationals, we always look worse after internationals, and I think the reason for that is because of the energy they're putting in over for their national side, and we just don't seem to have the energy when we come back. So I don't personally know. I think there's a magnitude of issues. You can look to Ollie, you can look to the coaches, you can look to the players. There's a whole host of issues, but I think I said to Benny before, from my personal view, I think Ollie now needs to be selfish. Start picking the team that he needs to pick to win games. I think he needs to start picking players that he can trust again, because I think at the moment he's trying to shoehorn too many players into a system that is just clearly not working. So we'll turn it around, though. I'm optimistic, I should say. But anyway, we'll move on from the men. Let's talk about the women's team because they are more positive to talk about at the moment. And hopefully to bring some positivity. Marcy, welcome to the stream. Thanks for giving up your early afternoon over in America to join us and talk about Marc Skinner.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's no problem. So for people who might not know who you are, obviously you've been on the women's channel in the past. Do you just want to give a brief introduction to yourself and maybe how you got involved in or following women's football?
I watch the U.S. women's national team in the United States and been a follower of that since late 1990s, I guess is the best way to put it. And when we had COVID, the whole world had COVID. A lot of our women's players, our national players, moved to the WSL. And so I started watching them. And my favorite player is Tobin Heath, who was with Manchester United. She's now with Arsenal. So I actually do watch Arsenal games now, too. And that's how I started. But when I started, I got involved with the Barmy Army, although now we're called something else with a lot of letters. And I can never remember the organization of the letters, so I don't bother. I just stick with Barmy Army. And I met Nat, and John invited me to be on a podcast one time. So because they were looking at the NWSL, so which I'm a fan of, and I attend matches here. So that's it. So I like Casey Stoney as a manager. I'm not too fond of Marc Skinner because he used to be here at the Orlando Pride, and I didn't think he did such a hot job with them. I mean, I'm taking a wait and see attitude, but I got a whole lot of questions.
Yeah, that leads me on nicely into my first kind of question. Obviously, we know he was obviously at Orlando before he came over to United. I'm quite new to women's football, so Marc Skinner's probably the first real manager I've got involved with. What was the kind of feeling around Orlando when he left and came to United? Were Orlando fans like kind of happy? Was there that kind of thing of, oh, what we're going to do now kind of thing? Or
well, he got hired in January of 2019. Okay, and I actually looked some stuff up because my gist of Orlando was that they lost, and you couldn't understand why they lost because they have an all-star lineup. I mean, they have Marta, they have Alex Morgan, they got Sydney LaRue, they've got Ashlyn Harrison, goalkeeper. They got Ali Krieger, is probably one of the best, if not the best, defensive back you have. I mean, she challenges Lucy Bronze, and then she's faster than Lucy Bronze. Okay, so you're going, okay, this team is stacked. How are they losing? He compiled in the time he was with Orlando. He compiled 9 wins and 23 losses and 11 draws. Okay. And 7 of the 9 wins came in this season where they went undefeated for the first 7 matches. And then he got an opportunity to go to England. I understand why he went to England. He has a little girl and his partner's, the English national team player, Bassett, I think. And so they lived in England, it's like, hey, I get that. I totally get that. The overall feel of him losing, him leaving Orlando after it, when he left, they wished him luck. And after he left, and then they finally won a game because they went on a losing streak for a while. They were like, oh, good. We finally have a coach that is coaching us. So I don't get why he was losing. I think he had a plan of how he wants his team to play. And if he doesn't have the players that fit that plan, he's still going to go with that plan. He doesn't adapt the plan to the players. He adapts the players to the plan. And, his plan, as in some of the games that, some of the matches we've had this season, it's, start from the back, build up. And that's great if you're faster than the team you're playing. But if you're not faster than team you're playing, okay, all you're going to get is losing, you're already 0-2 or 0-3, with 20 minutes, 30 minutes gone by, and now you're in a hole and you're trying to dig out of the hole. Okay. I don't think Manchester United is made up of quality players. Not all of them are of the same level of quality. Okay. Let's be frank, obviously, because you don't have a whole team of national teamers. Okay. But he does a very good job of bringing in his academy players. Kerry Jones has been on the pitch for a couple of times. They're carrying some people. They're in, Tara Bourne is out on loan. So they are actively doing a very good job of, giving the academy players experience and bringing them up so that eventually they can be on the first team, right? So that's a good thing. I see that as a very, very good thing because you got Gareth Taylor who puts them in a closet and doesn't want to see them. So, those academy players have no future at City. But I have a real problem with who he's currently putting on the pitch facing the team that they're facing. He seems to be very locked in on certain players. And for the life of me, I can't figure out, he obviously, I'm not privy to all his data for how he's compiled to figure out what this is. But questionably, I'm looking at it and, for the life of me, I cannot figure out how he, the only thing I can think of is he has a black hat. He has dice. Okay. He has all the midfielders as a number of the dice, and he picks out 3 die, and that's his starting midfield. Okay, that's the only thing I can think of. It's because I look at it, and except for the one midfielder, okay, who has played every minute of all 5 WSL matches, the rest of them, I just don't see a synergy in that midfield. And I think our midfield is just, I mean, sure, we're not scoring. Okay, we're down a couple strikers. You know, we lost Kristen Press, we lost Tobin Heath. You know, I think we've Jane Ross, Sigworth signed for Leicester. Jane Ross signed for I think she's at the Rangers now. I think I could be wrong about that. So that's 4 strikers, and the one that we did bring in is Martha Thomas, and she is only subbed in twice that I can remember. Carrie Jones has been on the pitch more than I don't know who else do we have as a striker. So there's Hansen, there's Tooney, there's Leah. I mean, I'm not sure we have anybody else. So correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't have a really good plan to get the ball unless you've got Maria, you know, launching it, which she is very accurate. I mean, she launched this ball and Tooney caught it, and your best passers on the pitch are Tooney and Hannah, and Ona is awesome. Okay. Hansen has good feeds, but I think Hansen gets tied up if you have a defensive back that's got some speed, Hansen sort of gets tied up in that. She ends up not really being able to mark her territory and make sure her runs are in there. Russo blows through everybody, okay? And Russo is very good, but you don't have Russo and Tooney on the pitch at the same time working together. When you do, it's magic. It's absolute magic. But he hasn't really been doing that. The way I look at it is this way. Man United does not have the loaded bench that Chelsea or Arsenal have. Or even if Man City wasn't in the hospital, okay, for the most part, okay, they also have a loaded bench. But right now they really don't have any bench because, Gareth Taylor won't play anybody who's not already a professional first team player. He's not really loading his bench up. So I don't believe that, they have the backup. They don't have the backup. So if somebody goes down, it's really good to take a hit. Like Millie went down. Okay. Millie went down. You've got Maria and you've got Aoife.
Yeah,
Aoife Mannion.
Yeah. Say that again slowly.
Aoife Mannion.
Aoife. Okay.
Aoife Mannion, yeah.
Okay.
That's how I say it.
All right. So you've got Aoife. And they've played every match. Okay. And they've doing pretty good. Maria was very overwhelmed in the Chelsea match, but she really has come on in the last 2 matches. She's really grown and she is stable and she's sturdy and she is hanging in there. She's not being that, when she gets pressed, when they get pressed, they got nervous. And I also likened it that Chelsea match was very early on in the season. And you had Mary Earps who's playing with Mannion. Okay, I'm giving up on the first name. Mannion and Maria. Okay. And I don't think they really got their communication down. So I think that all 3 of them were just a bit nervous in terms of working with each other. And they didn't have the defense in terms of who's doing what. When do I come out? How far am I going to let it run? What kind of shots in there? Is it curving? Should I go this way? Am I going to pick it? Am I shielding it? What am I doing? And that led to a lot of Chelsea's easy pickoffs. Okay. That's what I believe. I believe that as the season goes forward, they will get better. You've seen Maria get better. Mannion has been a extremely pleasant surprise for me because I didn't even see her last season. And now I found out that she had been injured and was out for a while. So I think she's holding up very well. Hannah and Ona are really doing very, very well on both of those sides, but they have played every minute of every match. Okay, so I'm not sure whether it's going to take a toll on them over time, because I think Hannah's coming back from an injury as well. So, and Ona's just Ona. She's just awesome. But you got that midfield, and that midfield, when you have a quicker team against us, we do not control the ball. We have some midfielders who just cannot hold the ball. They are
Marty. On that, has that always been a problem at Orlando Pride for under Marc Skinner? When Marc Skinner was there, wasn't midfield overran quite a lot? Because this seems to be a common theme at Manchester United at the minute, where our midfield gets overrun quite a lot. Even in the games where we look comfortable and we're controlling our midfield, sometimes players are going through it with ease, like a knife through butter, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Was that always a problem at Orlando Pride? Do you see like the same sort of style implemented at Orlando Pride at Manchester United?
It's a little bit hard to compare because in the NWSL, it's a wide open pitch. It's basically just fire it down. You've got Ali Krieger who will run from one end of the pitch to the other end of the pitch and back and forth. So it's going up the sides, it's coming through the middle, and it's literally a transition game. It's like basketball, the transition where you're going one end to the other end, but on a pitch, and you're using a soccer ball instead of a basketball. I mean, they don't play in a let's set up and break down the other team. They play, we're going to run down the field. We're going to run over you, run through you, and do as much as possible. There was a match on last night. It was the Houston Dash against the Portland Thorns, and it looked like World Wrestling match. It literally looked like a World Wrestling match. There was one point where you had 5 players all down. They had all just, gone into a huge cluster. They were legs, arms, it's, if you everyone rewatch that match, just watch the first 10 minutes and you'll see it becomes basically a free-for-all. Both coaches were going nuts because they were not calling the fouls. And then when they did call the fouls, the players were getting in the ref's faces for calling a foul because he hadn't been calling a foul the entire match.
Sounds like the United Durham game last Thursday, that does.
Yeah, that was that's what it reminded me of. Is the ref was not taking control of the match, and so it literally became a free for all, and it was literally just one end to the other end to the other end to the other end, and it's a fairly wide. It's a wide pitch. It's a huge. I mean, I think they're probably more regulated in the U.S. than they are in the UK, because I didn't realize that different stadiums have different sizes. So that was new to me. So I'm just guessing that it all depends upon what you have. But what I have noticed in going back of how we've played this season is that if we're playing against a team that is at least our speed or slower, that we have the faster players, we can manage our midfield, the Swiss cheese that it is. We can manage it. If they're better than us in terms of being quicker than us and being on the ball, and they press us at all, okay, it's disastrous results. And what bothers me is the teams that we've played, we've won 2 goals. We've scored 10 goals and we've allowed 9 in, right? I mean, we're only +1, right? So why, if Leah is coming back from a bad injury, okay, so she's going to have a little bit of time, but why is it that we're not scoring more goals? Okay, why do we not have our foot on the pedal? If this is a rebuilding year, then I hope somebody tells me that, because I look at who we have. You can't tell me that Mary Earps forgot how to be the goalkeeper overnight. You just can't tell me that. She was at Wolfsburg. She's been at Man United. I mean, she makes these freaking fantastic saves. and then ends up having just a complete mind melt. And I don't think the mind melt's because of Mary. I think it has to do with the trio, and she's playing with all new people, and there's just no communication, or they haven't figured out how to communicate with each other. Okay. The midfield doesn't play like a midfield together. The only two people who really know what the hell they're doing are Hannah and Ona, who are going up and down the sides. Okay. And Toonie is the most creative person on the darn field. Okay. She is like the absolute creative person. She is, she looks for the ball. She doesn't wait for the ball to come to her. Okay. She doesn't sort of watch and be a spectator. Okay. Which we have some of those, they used to call daisy pickers when you're back and, when you were like 5 years old, they were daisy pickers because they sat there on the field and they just basically picked the flowers. Okay. Because they weren't really paying attention. Okay. We got some of those. All right. We have at least one of them that I know darn well. Every time I look at her, I'm going, what are you doing? Just move. Just please move. It is extremely. Last year when I would watch the Man United matches, they flowed, Sometimes I didn't know why they were flowing or how they flowed because I was still learning the breakdown, like how the WSL plays versus the NWSL. Because the NWSL, you don't have to know a whole lot about soccer to watch it. Okay. Yeah, they have their positions, they have their ideas, but basically it's a free for all. And the idea is put the ball in the net and you do it however the hell you can. Right.
I was just going to ask. I saw a comment earlier about the Chelsea game, and that obviously I think that was a big shock to Mark's system personally, and I think obviously we know that Chelsea bullied us in that game. Do you think that Mark is trying to change United's system because it's a completely different system to what we played under Casey? Casey was more reserved, control the ball a lot more, whereas Mark seems to be it's high attacking fullbacks, it's inside forwards, and it's a complete change of system. So do you think he's trying to change too much? Or do you think he's just trying to... Because me personally, if I'm looking at it as a manager point of view, he's got to implement his style and stick with it. But do you feel like he's changing it too much compared to what Casey had?
I think he's changing it without considering what his players' capabilities are. Okay, you look at if you break down the players. Okay, all right, this one runs very, very fast. This one has left-footed. This one's right-footed. This one's, both-footed. This one is great at headers. This one's a turtle. You look at various things and you say, okay, how can I utilize those tools that player has, and do they fit in my system? Where can I put them? And what I truly, truly believe is I don't think he's putting the players together yet. Maybe he's still trying to figure out who plays well together in the midfield. He's got the back four. He's got the back five. Let's say, okay, he's got Maria, he's got Mannion, he's got Ona and Hannah, and he's got Mary Earps as the goalkeeper. Okay. Those five have been in every match. And except for when Millie went down, okay, they've played every minute, except for the little part where Millie was playing. Okay, now why Millie wasn't a starter, back then in the first match, I have no idea. Okay, then you look at the midfield, and he started Boarisa, and then he sort of left her alone, and then she became this sub, and she became the defensive sub after he felt the match was in hand. Okay. You know how you put in your defensive people just to make sure and to control the ball and that. She's phenomenal as a midfielder from where she came from. You can't tell me that she is, like if you want to rank our midfielders, you can't tell me she's our worst midfielder. She's not, it's so I don't know whether he feels she doesn't fit in with what he's trying to do with the midfield. Okay, but I remember last year, Casey was trying to pass the ball through the middle, get the ball, movement of the ball, start from the back, pass it and through the middle. And she couldn't get it through the middle because of who the midfielders were. Okay. The main midfielder who's a great passer is Jackie. She's a phenomenal passer. And even she starts getting a little like, okay, let's drive this forward. Let's keep pushing forward. All right. But then Jackie is probably one of your best tracking midfielders when it goes into a transition game and they're headed back to our goal. She is got really good at steals and stops and pokes and all sorts of stuff. And she marks people and she gets in there. And she's not like Haley Ladd, who will put in a bit of, a hard challenge. Okay. She's not like that. She does it in a different way, but she is a great passer, and my problem really is honestly with Katie. Okay. I don't think she's in form. She cannot dribble with the ball. She doesn't really control the ball. She gets the ball, she passes the ball, gets the ball, passes the ball, gets the ball, passes the ball. And then in her passes, there was one match this year where she was absolutely on target. But that was like the only match that I saw that every pass she made, she actually got it to a Man United player. Most of the times it becomes this like pinball machine. She passes the ball and you don't know where it's going and it's nowhere near where it's supposed to be. It should have been a good feed. And she's not overcooking it. She's actually, I think, shortening it sometimes, because, sometimes, they overcook them and, you can't catch up or, it's not weighted well enough, that sort of thing. Hannah's a really good passer. I've been impressed with her passing, in terms of her feeds. So you have Tooney, who's a great feeder, great ball distributor. Okay. You've got Russo, who would be great to distribute the ball to because she's got the speed and she will attack, she'll attack the nets at all time. Leia is just needing her timing back. I mean, she's just missing on a couple of things. But, Katie has played every minute of every match. And I'm getting the feeling that because he switched everybody else around her. So I'm getting the feeling that he thinks she's the person who's the keystone to his game plan. And I'm not exactly sure she is. I'm not convinced of it. I don't think she is in great form. And I don't think she has the speed to keep up with the challenges. You have to think about it this way. We're in fourth place. Okay. Man City is on, they're in the ICU at the moment. They're on a respirator. Okay. And Everton is going to get a new head coach. And Everton they signed a ton of people who have all international experience. And those players are not going to put up with the losing season. So 5 games in, they've got 2 wins. Everton's going to make a run. You get somebody in there who knows how to utilize the players they have with the talents that they have. Okay. Because you come in and you inherit everybody else's players. Whoever these players are not his players. They're Casey's players. He inherited them.
What does Marc Skinner have to do to be successful this season to win it? Maybe win a trophy. And I do think can Marc Skinner go on and win a trophy, whether it be in the FA Cup or the Conti Cup, or whether it'll be challenging for the league or getting in Champions League places.
Well, he's not going to win a County Cup, going in a draw, winning a penalty shootout with Durham.
I know, but it's not over yet. I know it's not the best result in the world, but it's not over yet. We're going to big city, and it's another story, isn't it? But what do you think he has to do, Marc Skinner, then, to implement his own idea to become successful?
Every time I see him interview, he's talking about how he wants his players to become professional, be more professional. And I always ask myself the question is like, does he think he's managing, a youth team that is moving up to become a professional, or he's getting them ready to play in college, or he's managing a college system that is you're going to go into a draft? We have drafts here. Like that sort of thing. Okay. Because I don't get it. These ladies are already professional. He doesn't have one person signed that has been in the Champions League for the last year and a half. Okay. Like, granted, they came up from the Champions League. All right. But that's done. I mean, that is truly, truly done. I mean, these are all professionals. So I don't get it. I don't get where, what his purpose is. If his purpose is, I want to reinvent Man United women's team to play my kind of, what I have in mind, my kind of football and my kind of system, and it's going to take a while to do, then that's what he ought to say. Because he came in and it's I swear to God, it's like coming in and he's speaking Chinese. Okay. And they don't understand it, because they look so disjointed. If you watch one of last year's matches, as they flowed, as they just attacked, or even as they defended, you would have one would meet and then they would check off. Okay, here's a question I have for you guys. Okay, you guys are really into men's football, right? Okay, I don't watch men's football. Okay, for the most part, I really don't. I will turn it on and I'll thought on it. I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. Explain to me, Pernell Harder picked up that ball, ran, okay, I think almost half the length of the pitch. Okay, maybe a third of the length of the pitch. It wasn't like there wasn't a Man United player around. How come somebody didn't give a yellow?
It's funny you asked that. I said exactly the same thing on the show straight after. I think you did as well, Benny, that sometimes it looks like we're too nice. And I wish that somebody just... Because I think it was Maria, Jackie, and Aoife Mannion that were alongside her. And you like, I agree with you. I want somebody just to kick her legs, take her down, take a yellow card, and that goal then doesn't happen. So I do think sometimes maybe we are a little bit too nice in that area.
I mean, Maria got wrong-footed. There's one like Harder sort of gave a head fake, and and Maria bit. But I really do. I looked back at that run. I'm going, for that length of time, for that length of distance, how come somebody didn't, all they had to do is shove her off the ball. They would have gotten an automatic yellow, but it would have stopped the run. They get a free kick. Okay. But if you're well outside, the 18, I think it's the 18-yard box, the box.
Yeah.
Okay? You're not giving up a penalty kick, so that's what I don't understand. I did not understand that. I would love to see Boa Risa on there. From everything I've read about Boa Risa, I want to see her. I want to see her out there. I don't think Katie's in good form. I just don't think it. I think she's getting beat. I think her passes just aren't consistent. And then half the time I'm trying to figure out what she's doing on the field. Looking. I think Jackie should never be taken off the field. Frankly, she is a phenomenal passer. I do believe that Mark is trying to get her to be more offensive. Benny, to answer your question, I think they need to find more offense. They truly, truly need to find more offense. They need to generate the offense. And in order to get that, they need good passing lanes to feed the ball. Ona is very good at passing. So is Hannah. Hannah's excellent at passing. I was impressed with Maria's lobbing and just pinpoint delivery. There's a couple of things, I look at Maria and I'm going, oh God, you just gotta get your feet together. It's like your footwork. You gotta manage that footwork, girl. But Mannion seems to be very solid. She seems solid. She doesn't seem, like lights out, but she seems solid. Okay. And that's what we need. We need solid. We need communication with Mary. What bothered me is Ellen White should never have been allowed to get that close in order to have the kickback. Who the hell didn't have Mary's back? Mary's going for that. You're telling me that they didn't drop back just in case there was a rebound? Okay. I mean, there was nobody around, Ellen White. I think Mark's head is such that he doesn't see this season as an opportunity. He doesn't see this season as being something that, he's got to deliver. He sees the season as being what we call a honeymoon. I don't know if you have that phrase there, but we have a phrase that if you have a new manager come in, new head coach come in, they have what's called a honeymoon period. It means, they can really suck. They can stink up the joint. It can be horrible, and everybody will give them a pass because they're new. All right. I think that's how he sees it. What I'm worried about is if he does not do well this season decently, okay, if Man City stays on the respirator, okay, I don't see why we couldn't finish in the top 3. But if we finish in the top 3, there's no way we could really challenge in it's the Champions League, right? The UEFA?
Yeah.
Right? It's called the Champions League because I was on Twitter one time and I wrote it up and somebody said, no, you must mean this. and I'm like, okay, fine. I have it wrong. All right. We couldn't challenge there. We don't have the bench and we don't have the international quality of players, that we have. But if we're not going to be successful this season, and I mean successful, meaning battling in and out. If we have somebody that we can take advantage of, we should have our pedal to the metal, and which essentially put your foot on the gas and just keep driving forward and run the goal line up, because you'll lose Jackie, you'll lose Ona, you're gonna lose Tooney, you're gonna lose players that are just top quality that someone else is going to pick up. You've got Aston Villa putting money into their system, right? They got Carla Ward. They took her away from Birmingham, right? And she stole, she took a whole bunch of players from them and have them playing for her now. There are other teams that are putting money in to the women's game. Now, I'm not sure what the ownership of Man United, I understand, are, they're not thought of fondly. And
I was just going to say on a couple of the things you said there. Obviously, we hear that with I absolutely love Skinner, so I'm going to back him to the hilt, I think. But I do agree. I think we hear this a lot in his interviews about trusting the process, and it's a building job, and he wants the performances to outshine results and things like that. I'm just conscious. I'm just looking at time there, just coming towards the end. I just want to ask you this. I'm going to change this question ever so slightly. Obviously, so looking about saying there about. Can the results of the men's team, whether good or bad, affect the way that the women perform? I'm going to change that question slightly and just ask whether you think Skinner is involved with the men's team. Obviously, we know at the start he said that he had the email from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and they spoke a little bit. I'm just curious to think like what kind of person he is in terms of, is he very kind of like hands-on and gets involved in everything, wants to be kind of... I'm just trying to picture him like at Orlando or at Birmingham because I don't really know what he was like there, whether he is that kind of person that gets involved in all areas, or is he just solely focused on his own team, just leave it to the coaches kind of thing and just manage the team on a day-to-day?
Well, the way I see it in the UK is that the men's Premier League is say the gold medal. Okay. You attain the gold medal if you make it to the Premier League in the men's in the UK, right? Would you say that's a fair assessment?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So that level, okay. The women's, depending upon what club you're playing for, it's a tin star, okay. It is not valued in the same way or in the same, feeling. It doesn't, it's and it's very tied in. The men's and the women's within the same club are very tied together, okay. Or they're shunned and they're put out, that they have other places, is from what I can understand. So I do believe that Marc Skinner, if he has the ability to be involved in the men's, he will. Okay. Because I see him as not someone, like, in all honesty, I was very surprised that he would take the job. I understand why he took the job. But he was here from January of 2019. He could have jumped ship at any time, to get any other job, and he didn't. Okay. He finally had a winning team. They were undefeated. Everybody else had taken a loss already. We play a ton of games here. Okay, we run the season from beginning of January. Finally, they'll finish on October 31st, and then there's playoffs. Okay, we will milk it for whatever we can get out of it. So he finally had a winning season, and he turns and he totally jumps ships. Doesn't really put in any prep. Didn't really bother to find somebody to take his place. Okay, he basically just bailed. It's like, okay, I can't really get them to do what I want them to do. And finally, they're doing what they want to do and they're winning. And they never really, believed in whatever I was trying to get because they want to control the ball. Well, that's not how you really win in the U.S., okay? You basically just smash mouth. So, yeah, if he has an opportunity to get involved in the men's and the men's have a lot more, clout, than the women's, I just see him doing it. I have no doubt that he will put himself in the best position possible to get where he believes he would like to be, which is have a team that does exactly what he wants him to do and win that way. Okay. The problem is he's got the plan, but they're not his players that he handpicked to fit his system. Okay. If that's the case, then you have to have a hybrid. You have to have a backup plan, or you at least have to tell everybody, we're going to suck this year. Okay. Just understand we're going to suck this year. So just, be patient, but we will get this done. We will come about. We will be able to do this, go that route. Don't try to tell me that I'm watching a good match, because I'm not. I'm watching disorganization. Nobody knows what the heck's going on. And I'm watching Katie Zellum passing to someone who's not there. So, so that just gets a little bit infuriating. I mean, I love Leigh Golden, who, I'm like, oh man, just missed. Jackie just missed. I'm enjoying the passes. I'm enjoying that. But gosh, all I sit there and think is, I said, okay, well, what if we had a midfield, a Borisa and Ladd and Jackie? Can we have that for just try one game, please. Just give me one game with those three and see how we do with the midfield. Because our midfield is just, it's lacking. It's definitely lacking.
You sound very confident for the season. No, honestly, I think it's been brilliant to chat to you today. Yeah. It's I love your passion for the sport.
I hope he does better, but I'm worried. I'm seriously worried about him because I don't see that he has a really great track record for staying with what he starts. And he I don't doubt he knows football. I don't doubt he's an excellent coach. I really don't doubt that. Okay. But I do question why he insists on putting a total game plan in when the players he needs to put the game plan in, he's missing a couple people. He's missing some key people, and he hasn't really identified who he's, who he can use where, and that, to me, I'm going, okay, well then what kind of, because part of the thing I think about a coach that at least I'm used to seeing in various sports, and I played multiple sports and things like that. And one of the best coaches that I've ever had are the coaches who it's like, okay, well, I'd really like to do this, but that's not going to fit the way we need to attack this team. So we're going to do it this way because this is where our strength lies. And we're going to put our strength and we're going to attack their weakness. And that's how we're going to win. Okay. And he would put it's like, okay, well, you two really work together well on the left-hand side. So let's keep you there. Okay. And let's try that for a little bit. The other thing that I don't think he does is he does not adjust well enough within the match. He waits way too long. It's sort of like,
yeah. It's all discussions we've had, obviously, over the past few weeks, haven't we, Benny, about all these different kind of things. I'm afraid we're going to have to wrap up. I'm just looking at the time now that the women's.
Thanks for asking me on.
It's not a problem. I know John is very keen on getting you back on All for United WFC, so make sure you're following over there as well, guys, and subscribe to the women's channel as well. Make sure you're following these two. We've got content all week, Atalanta preview, and just we've got everything this week, so make sure you're tuning in for all of those. And yeah, thanks Marty for coming on, Benny as always, and we'll see you very soon.